was a pretty quiet weekend in the world of boxing. There was a few fights which I'm going to talk about in this video, just do a little roundup. First and foremost, there was Curtis Stevens versus Saul Roman. Nice knockout win for Stevens. You know, Stevens is a very short middleweight. I think he's like, what is he, 5'5" or 5'6". He's very short little guy. I think he's 5'6" or 5'7" actually. Short little guy. You know, he had a couple losses earlier in his career. He lost to Jesse Brinkley. You know, this was a decent performance. I wasn't blown away. A lot of people may have been blown away. I wasn't blown away. It was a first round KO over Saul Roman. You know, Stevens looked, you know, fairly sharp in there, quite decent. But again, I wasn't really blown away. He can punch, but I don't think he's a crazy knockout puncher. I think he's got, you know, nice power, but I don't think he's from the fights I've watched of Curtis Stevens, I don't think he's an incredible puncher. I think he's a good puncher, but nothing spectacular. Nothing that's really going to frighten a lot of the middleweights out there, to be honest with you. But nonetheless, this was a nice knockout. He landed some nice precise shots on the jaw, and he managed to take Saul Roman out of there. You know, it was a nice win in the first round. Nice sharp punches, and he was just too quick-handed for this guy, and he knocked him out. After the fight, they were talking about Gennady Golovkin, and he said, you know, he could catch Golovkin with shots like that. And then when they pressed the issue with him and said, well, you know, would you want to fight Golovkin or, you know, words to that effect, he kind of backtracked a little bit. You know, I'm not really sure. He started talking about his manager and his promoter and all those kind of things. You know how fighters do. So I'm not necessarily sure if he really wants the Golovkin fight, whether he was just showing a bit of bravado. You know, I'm not even sure if he really wants to fight. Maybe he does. I don't know. But the impression I got was it was more bravado than anything else, because he was quite hyper after getting that first round KO. So anyway, that's all there is to really say about that fight. We'll see where Curtis Stevens goes from here. The other fights, well, there was Adamek against Dominic Guinn. I mean, the less we say about that, the better, to be honest with you. Adamek, I mean, he apparently he's hoping to get another title shot, but he's taking on journeyman after journeyman after journeyman. But it seems that these days, that's the way to get a title shot against Vladimir, at least, is to take on a bunch of journeymen. You know, that's how Marius Wack got his title shot. That's how Pianetta got his title shot. So maybe Adamek wants to do the same thing, fight a bunch of journeymen, and, you know, maybe Vladimir will give him a shot next. Who knows? But this fight against Dominic Guinn, I mean, it's a shame that Dominic Guinn's still around. He's one of those fighters who I always felt got damaged in the amateurs. You know, he had a lot of amateur fights, over 200 amateur fights. And when he turned professional, to me, he always had the look of a shot-worn guy. Even when he was still undefeated, to me, he just looked shot-worn. He looked like a guy that's been in way too many gym wars, had too many amateur fights, took too much punishment in the gym and in the amateurs. And by the time he got to the pros, to me, he looked burnt out before he even lost. But that's just my personal opinion. All I can really say about Dominic Guinn now, he's still tough. All right, he's still taking guys the distance. Big punches, young guys coming up, he's still taking it the distance. As far as I know, Dominic Guinn's never been down. I know he's never been stopped, but as far as I know, he's never been down either. He's had, I think, 10 losses now after the Adamek loss. He's had 10 losses. The guy's never been down, as far as I know, never been stopped. So he's very tough. He's very tough. That can definitely be said. But yeah, Adamek won a unanimous decision. Whatever. Then the fight which really interested me on Saturday night, and there was only really one fight that interested me tremendously, and that was Eddie Chambers against Fabricio Mchunu. And I was very impressed with Mchunu. This is the first time I've watched him. I ain't seen him before this. And I was very impressed with Mchunu. Mchunu is a very short cruiserweight. I think he's like 5'8". He's the shortest cruiserweight I've seen since Dwight Muhammad Qawi, who was also a very short light heavyweight and cruiserweight. I mean, when I'm saying very short, I'm talking about as short as a featherweight, right? That's how short I'm talking. Maybe not a featherweight, maybe like as short as a lightweight or a welterweight, right? Very short. And Mchunu's the same. I think he's like 5'8", so he's very short for a cruiserweight or even for a light heavyweight. Very, very short. But this guy's literally built like a tank, Mchunu. I mean, I don't know if he lifts weights or, you know, what, but don't know if it's mostly natural, but the guy's built like a damn tank. And not only is he built like a tank, but similar to a Mike Tyson, the guy has got quick hands. Even though he's built like a tank and he's extremely heavily muscled, he don't lose any type of speed or reflexes or, you know, agility with that type of bulk on him. He's very, very quick-handed, very sharp, very good reflexes, like a Tyson. You know, when Tyson was, you know, young, even though he was very heavily muscled, he was very sharp with it. He could move his hands very quickly. He was very, you know, athletically gifted. And Mchunu may be even more athletically gifted than a young Tyson, although he is smaller than Tyson and lighter. But he's very, very sharp. He's very slick. You know, when you look at his build, you wouldn't imagine that he would fight on the back foot and be as slick as he is. But basically, Mchunu's a southpaw. He's only 5'8". Eddie Chambers is like 6'1". And he basically outboxed Eddie Chambers for 10 rounds. That's basically what happened. Now, I still believe that moving down to cruiserweight was the right decision for Eddie Chambers. I think he can pick up a world title at cruiserweight. I don't think he'll pick up a world title at heavyweight. I don't think Povetkin's going to be holding on to that WBA strap anytime, you know, for too much longer. So it's just going to be a Klitschko type situation. All right. So I don't see Eddie Chambers doing anything realistic in the title picture at heavyweight. So I think the best move was for him to move down to cruiserweight. But this was a bad matchup for him, Mchunu. Obviously, he was a bit of an unknown quantity. Maybe his management didn't really know about Mchunu. Chambers management I'm talking about. But this was a bad style matchup. Mchunu is very slick. He punches hard. He's very short. He's awkward. And I just think it was a bad style matchup for Eddie Chambers. For, you know, this is probably the first time in Chambers' career that he was facing someone that is slicker than him. Slicker than himself. Quicker than himself and slicker than himself. And I just think it was a bad style matchup. Chambers, I don't remember seeing Eddie Chambers against a southpaw as well. I can't remember seeing Eddie Chambers fight a southpaw before. So he was fighting a guy who was much quicker than he's fought before, much slicker, and a southpaw. All right, and he can punch hard, and he's strong. I just think it was a bad style matchup. If you put Eddie Chambers in there with a Marco Huck, or Hook, however you want to pronounce it, I'd pick Chambers to beat Marco Huck. All right, you put him in there with Guillermo Jones, I give him a good chance against Guillermo Jones as well. But this particular guy, Mchunu, just a bad style matchup, man. Bad style matchup for him, you know, because you look at guys like Marco Huck and Guillermo Jones, Chambers is still faster than those guys. He's still slicker than those guys. All right, even Denis Lebedev, even though Lebedev lost, he's still faster than Lebedev and slicker than Lebedev too. All right, so even though Lebedev is a southpaw, but he ain't slick like Mchunu. No way. But anyway, Mchunu soundly outboxed Eddie Chambers. Also, the inactivity could have hurt Chambers as well a little bit. People could talk about the weight, like, you know, Chambers might not be the same at cruiserweight. I disagree. I think he'll be fine at cruiserweight because his last fight at heavyweight was against Thomas Adamek, and I think he only weighed 202 pounds anyway. So he was only like, you know, 2 or 3 pounds over the cruiserweight limit, or 1 or 2 pounds over the cruiserweight limit in the Adamek fight. And he was fine in the Adamek fight, apart from the fact that he injured his shoulder. So I don't think the weight is going to be a problem at all. I just think it was the opponent and maybe the inactivity, because Chambers has only been fighting once a year since 2010. All right, once a year since 2010. That's very, very poor activity level from Eddie Chambers. So he needs to fight more often, and his promoters need to do a better job, man. I mean, his managers or whatever, his manager needs to do a better job in getting him, you know, fights that are going to suit him. You know, I know Chambers is one of them type of guys who'll fight anyone, but, you know, this was pretty much a meaningless fight in terms of advancing his career in the cruiserweight division. Although Mchunu did apparently have quite a high ranking, I think that, you know, there's other bigger names out there with high ranking that Chambers could have gone for rather than Mchunu. So I think it's a bad style matchup and bad management, to be honest with you, bad matchmaking on behalf of Eddie Chambers' management team. I think they could have got him a less awkward opponent. But as for Mchunu, I was impressed. I was impressed with him. He's powerful. He's fast. He's built like a tank. Against a guy like Eddie Chambers, you know, who's a slick guy, he outslicked the slickster, you know, so that's pretty impressive, man. That's a testament to just how slick he really is. Obviously, he's very short, so I'm not sure if these tactics are going to work against everyone. All right, I'm not sure if they're going to work against everyone. You know, because Eddie Chambers is not used to being out-slicked the way he was in this fight, I think he fell into traps a little bit too easily. You know, he being a taller guy with a longer reach, I believe he had a longer reach, but he's definitely the taller guy. I don't know why he didn't try and sit on his back foot and let Mchunu come to him. You know, just stuck a jab out there. Just hit Mchunu on the gloves, on the arm, and just stuck a jab out there and you know, just let Mchunu come to him. But instead, he was walking forward and trying to make the fight all the time, and he was giving Mchunu counter-punching opportunities. You know, and he just kept trying to press the action. And I guess Eddie Chambers was thinking about his power the whole time. You know, because he will definitely be more powerful at cruiserweight, but you know, against a slickster like this, you can't be loading up on punches. And Eddie was loading up on the right hand a lot in this fight. All right. He should have just sat back and just imitated Klitschko. He should have done to Mchunu what Klitschko did to him. Sit on the back foot and don't allow slickness to be an issue. Let the shorter man come to you. There's no need to go looking for him. All right. Maintain the distance. Let the shorter man come to you. But Eddie Chambers was giving up his height and reach. Like I say, he's not used to being the taller guy. So, you know, I guess he's not used to fighting like a taller guy. You know, he was giving up his height and reach in there. So, but I still think Eddie Chambers can be a force at cruiserweight. Put him in there with any of those guys like Afolabi, Marco Hook, Guillermo Jones, you know, what's the other guy called again, man? Lebedev. Yeah, put him in there with any of those guys. I think Chambers got a very good chance of beating all of them, and he'll be competitive against all of them, because this fight here against Mchunu, it was pretty one-sided on the cards, right? Chambers was walking forward, he was trying to make a fight of it, but on the cards it was a one-sided defeat, you know. But yeah, I think Chambers can come again, but just needs better matchmaking and needs to learn how to fight like a bigger fighter these days, you know, because he's a decent-sized cruiserweight. Most of the cruiserweights around are kind of around the 6 foot mark, 6 foot, 6'1". So he needs to learn how to fight like, you know, a bigger guy in a division rather than a small guy at heavyweight. So yeah, that's just my roundup for the weekend boxing. There wasn't really much going on other than this Mchunu Chambers fight that interested me. So yeah, leave your comments in the comment section below about all the fights. Let me know how you felt about them. Let me know how you feel about the future of all these fighters that I've just discussed in this video. So yeah, leave your comments in the comment section below. This is Hatman. I'm out.